Interlude, and I'm joined by our film critic, Lisa Nesselson. Hello, Lisa.
Hello.
So out here today in France are an American movie based on the Bible and a Mexican movie whose drug dealing characters probably use the Old Testament to burn bonfires and the New Testament to keep them going. So let's start with Noah. I believe the reception has been mixed.
You know, this movie was condemned in advance by one of my favorite categories of film critics, which is people who have not actually seen the film. This time around, they're located in places like Qatar, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates. But I come to think that censoring a movie on religious grounds is actually progress, because back in 1988, there was a theater here that was actually blown up for showing Martin Scorsese's The Last Temptation of Christ. And to its immense credit, the city of Paris pledged to rebuild that theater, and they did, and you can go to it today, and it's called Le Saint-Michel.
And the religious right in the US took issue with it too.
Of course they did, but and they're a powerful segment of the population in the U.S., either for turning out in droves to see a movie they approve of or boycotting it and staying it away. I don't think that St. Michael, the namesake of that theater that was blown up, or indeed Jesus, would have approved of blowing up movie theaters. And I think even throwing popcorn at the screen might qualify as an unchristian bit of behavior. But as for Aronofsky's take on a few pages in the book of Genesis, I don't find it particularly disrespectful, and as spectacle, it's fairly entertaining.
Okay, so this is the latest film Aronofsky's written and directed, where the main character is somewhat delusional.
Oh, just a little bit. If you remember, his previous film was Black Swan, which starred Natalie Portman as a professional ballet dancer who cracks up under the pressure of remaining faithful to her craft and dancing a very difficult role. And here Noah features Russell Crowe as a guy who more or less cracks under the pressure of having been cast, or believing he's been cast by the creator, to be the hard-nosed patriarch in charge of rescuing a bunch of innocent animals from a whole lot of water. What's interesting about it is that he can't make up his mind about whether the job description includes assuring the continuation of the human race once the weather improves.
Now, I know there's been a lot of debate about how accurate the portrayal is.
Yes, well, the word accurate, we needn't argue about how authentic the story allegedly is or isn't, for the simple reason that right there at the end of the movie, it is written that the characters are fictitious and that if they bear any similarity to actual people, locations, or events, it's entirely fortuitous. What does that mean for us? It means that if you've burdened one of your sons with a name like Ham, like Noah did, and then you won't let him have a girlfriend, that's like a total coincidence, and there is no point in trying to sue the studio for ripping off your true life story. That said, I like the solution the film provides for how Noah and his small family built a sailing vessel big enough to hold so many animals, and I really like the way it pits two worldviews against each other. Unwavering faith in a so-called creator at all costs versus a completely secular, grab-it-while-you-can approach that declares that if ever there was a God, he has abandoned us.
Now, Noah and the Flood is a story that we're all pretty familiar with. Everyone thinks they know it, so why make a film out of it?
Oh, because it's in the public domain and then you don't have to pay for the rights? No, seriously. Aronofsky is a thoughtful guy, and France 24's Renaud Lefort got to interview him and asked him how he spun a 2-hour and 19-minute film from a few pages in the Bible and why there are rainbows in the sky. Let's watch.
Well, you know, there's not much of a character of Noah in the Bible. There's only 4 chapters in Genesis, and there isn't really that much description. But, you know, the creator in the story in Genesis actually has a character arc. He starts off wanting justice, and by the end, with the rainbow, finds mercy. So for us, that was a very interesting kind of movement. We decided to align Noah with that story. So Noah is unlike other people at the beginning of the film in that he understands that what man has done to the planet, and he wants justice, and over the course of the film, he learns mercy.
Okay, Lisa, so we're going to turn our attention now to another movie out here in France today, and that's Heli, written and directed by Amat Escalante.
Yes, well, if the story of the flood tells us that it was supposed to wash away wickedness from the earth, Heli tells us that that plan didn't really work out. I saw Noah 2 weeks ago, and I've already pretty much forgotten it. I saw Heli almost a year ago at the Cannes Film Festival, where it won the Best Directing prize, and it's still very, very vivid in my mind.
I hear there's a torture scene in real time that's very hard to bear.
absolutely true, but I am of the opinion that torture scenes should be difficult to watch. What's most terrifying about this scene where a man is, because he has displeased some drug dealers, he is hung from the ceiling, flammable liquid is poured on his genitalia and then set fire to. But what's really scary about the scene is that the people in the house where this is happening think this is perfectly normal. And there are children sitting on a couch who think it's normal to have a guy being tortured a few feet away. It's no different from the video games they play. People think that taking drugs is dangerous, but destroying a stash of drugs is about the worst thing you can do, since somebody with limited compassion is bound to want them back. Here's what the director told France 24 about the violence in his film.
If I'm going to show these things that I want to talk about because it's something that's happening and I'm drawn to it, and some of my conscience is up at night thinking about it, reading it, I don't want to show it in the way that they show it in Hollywood or glamorized.
Okay, that's it for our cultural interlude. Thank you very much, Lisa. See you at the same time next week.
Next week.
Right, it's time now for sport, the previews for tonight's